Abuja.
Good morning and welcome to Dateline Abuja, your #1 general magazine TV program here on AIT. Well, thank you for joining us today, and I hope you had a lovely Easter celebration. I'm Hawa Momo. Easter, as we all know, is one of the most important festivals in the Christian calendar, which is celebrated throughout the world with great shows, and it's the day to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. In order to commemorate this day, some medical practitioners visited the Gwoza and Bama internally displaced camp here in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, to educate with them as well as to enlighten them on meningitis outbreak in Nigeria. So far, there have been a high number of people affected with the cerebral spinal meningitis outbreak in Nigeria, which has resulted to over 3,900 cases and over 400 deaths in 19 states as at 5th of April 2017, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Meningitis can either be caused by virus, fungi, or bacteria. And in Nigeria, the people likely to get affected are those living in the internally displaced persons camps because of their unsanitary environments, including the overcrowdedness, and also the people in the prisons and detention centers are prone to meningitis outbreaks. Because of their inability to have access to the outside world, there should be an execution of a massive sensitization campaign to raise awareness among citizens about the disease and provide education about its symptoms and actions that can prevent infections, especially to those at the IDP camps.
All right, my name is Dr Obinna Ebirim. I'm a senior associate with Direct Consulting and Logistics. We are here in partnership with AIT to assess the outbreak response in the IDP camp here in Durumi. As you know, living in an ID camp that is overcrowded, and also ID camps and refugee camps in the world are known to not to have the best hygienic condition. That's risk for meningitis, and we are here to really assess how the outbreak response, whether it has gotten to this point, and the awareness creation. And good enough, we met with the women, and they were having their Quran class, and when we spoke to them, we found out that some of them, or most of them, have been vaccinated. They also complain of some people who have missed out of the vaccination process, and also they are to some level aware, because when we ask them about the signs and symptoms and what they need to do if they suspect anyone has meningitis, they were able to give us answers. So what we can say is that there have been some outbreak response here in the IDP camp, but such environment should be given priority whenever there is an outbreak of a communicable disease like meningitis. So, and there's also need to continue to emphasize the need for regular hand washing and a good hygienic condition for camps like this, and also to strengthen their health center to be able to deal with all diseases, not necessarily an outbreak. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Linda Arogundade from Direct Consulting and Logistics. I'm here with some of my colleagues to come and give awareness about the ongoing cerebrospinal meningitis outbreak in the country. So being in an IDP camp puts a lot of them at risk of having meningitis because of overcrowding. So meningitis is basically inflammation of the covering of the brain. It's usually caused by bacteria, viruses, or fungal infection. And the commonest symptom is high fever and sometimes confusion, loss of consciousness. So creating awareness about the symptoms of meningitis will reduce the spread, so that when they see a child or somebody that has high fever, they take the person to the hospital and present them, and also get the required vaccines for meningitis.
Okay, I'm Dr. Shola Dele Olowu from DCL Nigeria. We're health management consultants and public health researchers. So we've visited the IDP camp today and seen the condition in which the children and the women are in. As we know, IDP camps are places where the individuals here are predisposed to different infectious diseases. So in this current scourge of meningitis, we're concerned about how they are going to manage if there's any outbreak. But luckily, the government has put in some efforts. We've seen the women are aware of how to respond in case they find any child or any of them has symptoms of the disease. They are aware of the symptoms and are aware that they need to take any symptomatic person to a facility as soon as possible. At this stage, it's important that the awareness creation is done in other camps that would need it, and they've told us that not all of them received the vaccines when they came, so it's important that the people who have not received vaccinations here should get them.
3 weeks ago, I'm
Okay, you gave them the vaccine?
Yeah,
Okay.
vaccine of meningitis.
Was it everybody that received it?
Just within 100%, 90% is taken.
90% of the people here have received.
Yeah.
Is it only the children?
The children, many, means most especially the children that are taken.
Is it for type C you gave specifically or?
No, just ordinary. Just I'm being, because the first time I'm being worked up, the director they are saying it's only for child, newborn to 5 years. So since has been changing the meningitis injection, say this one from newborn to either the man shall be 200 years, just give us for all. So that is my second route. I come in here to do everybody there. So most especially the male are going to be hustled to buy to do.
Okay, so the men are not around to receive.
Yeah.
Or you give the women and the children.
Yeah. So the men, they are women out of taking.
Who gave you the vaccines? Who gave you the vaccines you used?
But I just see a better minister of health.
Meningitis C?
Yeah, meningitis.
And did you see any? Was there any case in this camp of meningitis?
Apart from the meningitis, no.
There was no case.
Yeah,
Okay.
just the only for outside of Dumi. They are killing for the 7 young guys.
So there are some cases outside the room.
Yeah.
There was none in this camp.
No. Just they are killing for the 2 of Dagwa River. Here is a camp.
There is a camp in Dagwa River.
Yeah, 2.
So they had 2 cases.
2. They are killing 2.
They died. 2 cases.
Dead.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 died of meningitis.
Yeah.
Do you know how old? Was it children?
It's the adult. The one is 25 years. The 2 is 32 years.
And they are sure it was meningitis?
Yeah.
Did the laboratory confirm?
Yeah, if I see, I have my own surveillance. If I see the suspect of meningitis, suspect of YF, other things, I will have my own surveillance. I will have all these, my own surveillance.
Okay,
So they come and
surveillance
take
officer.
the statement of my own patient. They don't confirm. Just they are doing confirming for, they are saying with Ibadan. Confirming, yes. So even with here, I have a one suspect of YF. Yeah. Now.
You have a suspected case?
YF.
Here in this camp?
Yeah. So, but I'm taking the statement of the patient. They are going there. I'm sending the statement of the patient to Ibadan.
What do you do after taking the specimen? Do you kind of separate the child or talk to the mother about how to avoid so much contact with other children in the camp so it doesn't spread before the result comes out?
Yeah, but now the time I'm going with and then with my own surveillance, I give the women, the mother and their fathers, and then all their neighbors supposed to be here about for that if we do that so. You'll be affected of our safe and then for your children. So out of the cure, every time you can learn the complaint. So if the recommendation is clean, the problem should be released.
What about other immunizations apart from meningitis? Are all the children here immunized against measles and polio, pneumonia?
Yeah, there is taking the polio.
Okay, do you have it in your clinic here or you have to take them to a primary care center?
No, just I call.
They bring, do they have their cards? What about their
I
cards?
have a
All
weekly
their
report.
cards are with you.
I have a
Their
weekly
immunization
report.
cards and
Yeah.
the register.
Yeah, I have a weekly report. Yes.
So, in continuation of our assessment of the meningitis outbreak response in this IDP camp in Durumi, one of the gaps we found out about the health of the refugees staying here is the fact that this bush out here and the one down there is that's what serves as their toilet, and this predisposes them to a lot of diseases, diarrhea, meningitis. So one of the things that these people here needs is a toilet facility. I think the government and other well-meaning Nigerians who visit this camp should provide a toilet facility. They have water access to water here, but the lack of a water closet, toilet facility here, it's a major gap that needs to be bridged to ensure that people in this IDP camp enjoy good health.
Well, due to this outbreak of meningitis, Nigeria has recorded a large number of meningitis cases in about 16 states, including the federal capital city, Abuja, and its environs. Meningitis can either be caused by heat or bacteria, and this infection is considered to be one of the deadly infections out of many. Nigeria, being one of the countries within the meningitis belt, has recorded outbreaks in the past, which occur in dry season due to low humidity and dusty conditions. Well, our guest today on Dateline Abuja will shed more light on meningitis. Well, today my guest on Dateline Abuja is Dr. Obinna Ebirim. Did I get that?
Yes.
He's a senior associate in DCL and is working with the International Vaccines Access Project.
Yes, working on International Vaccine Access Center project in Nigeria.
Okay, beautiful. You're welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thanks, it's a pleasure.
Well, we have meningitis outbreak on the rise. Do you want to tell us, shed more light about that?
Okay, so meningitis, as you know, it's an infection of the meninges. So meninges is a covering of the brain and spinal cord, and usually the organisms that cause meningitis can range from microorganisms, bacteria, virus, even fungi and parasitic. But currently, the outbreak we're having in Nigeria is caused mostly by the meningitis, Neisseria meningitis strain C. We usually have that which is caused by the strain A, and usually the government prepares for it by vaccinating with meningitis A before the season, the dry season, when it's prevalent. But this time around we are seeing a new strain, and that is why it's a big problematic, and we're having more cases and more deaths. But to a good extent, the response has been nice and good, professional also. We've had reactive vaccination with the meningitis C vaccine that was provided by the World Health Organization with support from Gavi. And also we've had an increased awareness on how to prevent meningitis. So I think we had an outbreak and the government has mounted an adequate response to it.
Okay, it's recorded like from April this month, about 19 states affected, 4,000 cases, and about 438 deaths.
Yes.
What is the cause of this, or what could be the cause of this?
Okay, so as I've said earlier, it's because we're having a new strain. So usually vaccines work to prevent such vaccine-preventable diseases. So, but before now, what was common was the strain, the A. So we usually prepare for it. The government mounts these campaigns, vaccination campaigns with the appropriate vaccines. So, but having a new strain, it's like we are being caught unawares with a new strain. And moreover, the vaccines for this, they are very scarce and expensive, and they are not released by the World Health Organization until a country gets to a particular outbreak threshold before it's now released. So that's why we are having this number of deaths in about 19 states, with a case fatality rate of about 11%. But what I'm aware at this point is that although there are cases, but we're not having more cases in a week as we've had before.
Do you think it's reducing?
Yeah, it's reducing. It's now under control.
Okay. How can this meningitis be diagnosed?
Okay, so usually when a patient presents with meningitis, he or she comes down with high fever, also headache, stiff neck, what we call photophobia. So he's afraid to look.
Sometimes I have stiff neck.
But we have here well littered, so it's not shown any fear for light. Also for children, they have this very high pitch cry, and so these are the symptoms and signs that the patient comes down with. Or then when you suspect meningitis, you have to then do what we call a lumbar puncture. So it's sticking a needle into the spine and collecting a fluid called the cerebrospinal fluid. So with that fluid, you're able to culture it and identify the organism which is causing the meningitis, and then mount the appropriate treatment with antibiotics. So it's something that can be treated, unlike when we had Ebola that can be treated.
Okay, it can be treated.
Yes, with the appropriate antibiotics.
Is this expensive? When somebody comes up with those kind of signs like you just said, and they go to the hospital, is it expensive to do that kind of test?
No, it's not about the cost, really. It's about the expertise to do it. So it's not all facilities where people can stick a needle into the spine, because there are layers you have to pass gradually, and you make sure you get to a layer before you aspirate and make sure you're getting the CSF. So you don't want a bloody tap and all that. So that is it. Then two, it also means diagnosis. So in Nigeria, most people who come to the hospital are rushly diagnosed of malaria because they have fever. But this time is not a time to that rush diagnosis. You have to make sure you rule out meningitis, and you have to ask for stiff neck, check out for photophobia, and also make sure that the fever is not caused by meningitis before you can say it's malaria or any of the infective causes that.
In other words, you must do this test to verify whether you have malaria or meningitis.
No, it's not something you rush into, because also it has its own risk of getting to the spine. You don't want to introduce infection. So it's something that you have to make sure with the signs and symptoms, you make sure you have a working diagnosis. So when you now have a working diagnosis and you suspect meningitis, and also you have to also consider the context in which the patient is coming from. So is it coming from a highly an area that there is a high risk for meningitis? Is it coming from a crowded area and all that? So when you put all this together, you now have a working diagnosis, which you then carry out the appropriate investigation. If you suspect meningitis, so beyond doing the investigation, the lumbar puncture, you also have to report to the surveillance officer in the LG, so that they will take it up the channel, because beyond the clinical management, there are also there are a lot of public health intervention that takes place to try and make sure that all those that have been exposed to the patient is well taken care of, so that they don't spread the disease.
So in other words, you're saying you can't do this lumbar puncture test in all clinics?
No, not all clinics, because you must have the expertise to do that.
Okay, so who is at risk in getting infected?
Okay, so those are the extreme of ages. Children, the elderly are at risk. Also, we also know that those that are immunocompromised are also, so people that have their immune state is low. So people who have maybe HIV/AIDS, people who have who are maybe on steroids therapy for maybe bone marrow transplant also, and also people who have sickle cell disease, they are also at risk. Those who have chronic diabetes are also at risk. So these are the people at risk, most in the extreme of age, children and the elderly, and this.
So we'll rule out the middle class, so we're safe.
You're safe provided you don't have the risk factors, and also risk factor living in a crowded area, places with poor ventilation. So these are risk factors for meningitis.
How common is meningitis disease?
Yeah, so it's common, and also common at a particular time, and also common at a particular place. So there are areas across the sub-Saharan that is called the meningitis belt. So it cuts across some parts of northern Nigeria, especially the places you're having this outbreak, to some parts of Niger, Chad, and all that. So that is called the meningitis belt. If you look at it as a globe, it's like a belt. So people in that area are at risk of meningitis. So there is increased cases of meningitis around that area. Also, during the dry season between December and March, April, there's also an increased incidence of meningitis. So within that period, within those places, it's quite common. And that is why when the government is aware of a particular strain, before that period, they mount a vaccination program to try and prevent people from coming down with meningitis.
So how can we protect ourselves, or how can one protect themselves from getting meningitis?
Okay, during this period of outbreak, one can do simple things like ensuring hand washing, because as you know, it can be infected from if people pick up the organism from maybe fecal matter and all that.
What's fecal matter?
From feces, like people, if you go and ease yourself or maybe clean up and you don't wash your hand appropriately, you can pick it up and maybe put it in your mouth and all that. So simple hand washing, simple hygiene, yes, ensuring that you avoid crowded places, and if your house, try to make it more aerated, ensure cross ventilation, and also avoid, maybe if you're in an area where there is a case of meningitis outbreak, you avoid things like kissing, simple kissing, like exchange of body fluids. People can get infected, sexual intercourse, unprotected sexual intercourse. People can also get infected with meningitis through that. But simple things like hand washing, ensuring good hygiene. Then more importantly, vaccination. The importance of vaccines and immunization is very, very important. You can't overemphasize that. Vaccine
For everyone? Yeah,
for everyone who is there. So people should get vaccinated. People who are vaccinated with the meningitis C vaccine are highly unlikely to get infected. And beyond that, meningitis is not just caused by this strain. Even the penta vaccine that has Haemophilus influenza B can protect, because meningitis, Haemophilus influenza causes meningitis also. It's not just only about the strain C. So there are other vaccines, even the pneumococcal PCV. So there is a strep pneumonia that causes streptococcus bacteria that also causes meningitis. So it's not just about the Neisseria meningitis strain C that we are seeing now. So ensuring that you are well vaccinated, especially for children during the first year of life, would really protect people from meningitis.
And you also said vaccination.
Yeah, vaccination, that's giving vaccines, especially for children before 9 months, when they go through the full spectrum of vaccine immunization at birth, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 14 weeks, and 9 months. So those vaccines in itself protect against meningitis too.
Okay, quickly, you said it's highly contagious.
Yes.
So even through kissing, that means even somebody coughs around you.
Yes.
But there are people who, if you go to the markets, of course it's crowded, you can't avoid that. Bus stops, inside the buses, what should people do about that? If you're sitting next to somebody and the person coughs.
So it's also advised that this period you should do what we call guarded coughing. So you cough, so you don't cough.
Or in churches.
Yeah, so
say shake your neighbor.
Say you shake, but what you do is that by mere shaking, it's not going to pass through your thick palm skin. Yeah, but what you do is when you get home from any public place, please wash your hands. Simple hygiene. Washing, simple hand washing with soap under running water would be adequate, because most times we just shake people and then get it into our mouth. We don't want to eat something, we don't wash our hands and all that. Then these organisms begin to live around our cavity and our throat. And when the condition is favorable, there's a reducing immunity, or during that season, then it gets into the brain or spinal cord and affect those lining, causing meningitis. So hand washing really is one sure way, and also getting the vaccines, because most times, no matter how you try, you might just get infected one way or the other without being, but with vaccines, it gives you some.
Please, can you tell our viewers out there ways to get these vaccines in case they don't know?
Okay, so these vaccines are provided free of charge at all public health facilities. So if you have a child out there who is below 9 months, make sure that he or she gets the full spectrum of vaccines in the routine immunization schedule at birth, at 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 14 weeks, and 9 months. And also during the campaigns, when they go around, please make sure you bring your children out to receive the vaccines. And also in states where there's an outbreak, the vaccines is being given to not just children but everyone around that area. So make sure you avail yourself of that opportunity to receive the vaccines, because vaccines save lives and they are very, very cost effective. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, you've just done a major campaign, a health campaign. Thank you so much for
For the
being part
good
of
of the people.
Yes, thank you so much. That's why you're a doctor. Well, I've been talking to Dr. Obinna Ebirim, a senior associate with DCL working on international vaccines projects in Nigeria. It's Dateline Abuja. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Meningitis is an infectious disease, and it is extremely important for Nigerians to practice good hygiene to prevent the spread of the current outbreak. It is important that awareness should be done concerning this disease, and experts have described this the worst meningitis outbreak so far in Nigeria in a decade. Well, this outbreak, however, underscores the importance of a good surveillance system across the country and the rapid response to localize outbreaks when they occur. Together, we as Nigerians can ensure that this current outbreak ends soon. Don't forget that we are stronger together and knowledge is power. Well, that's the much I can take this week on Dateline Abuja. Don't forget to follow us on our social media page right now on your TV screen, and you can also check out our YouTube channel for other episodes that you may have missed. Thank you so much for staying with us on Dateline Abuja. I'm Harmomo. Good morning.